Alrighty guys, welcome back to this channel. I know it has been a minute and I do apologize, but there has been some changes in the marketplace and today we're going to talk about it. You're probably hearing some really spicy headlines about how the market is on a downturn and the sky is falling, or better yet, that the market is crashing as sales decrease by 41% in the GTA. So let's just dive right in and really put things into perspective. One thing that I do want to remind you is that the media has this wonderful way of really creating clickbaity titles to grab your attention. And so it's important to watch videos like this one to understand what the heck is actually going on and what it could mean for you in your situation if you're looking to buy or sell real estate. So as you know, I primarily work in the suburb markets in Durham and York Region, but I also work with many clients in Toronto, and in this video, we're gonna cover all three areas. So the headlines, if you're reading or watching the news, are probably gonna freak you out a little bit because they're gonna be reporting that sales are down in the GTA about 41% year over year, so from April 2021 to April 2022. And that's a pretty significant number. If you didn't have the information and the context surrounding it, you're probably thinking, haha, the market is finally crashing, now is my time. And I wouldn't say that the market is crashing per se, we're seeing more of a correction. So sorry to all the naysayers and those keyboard warriors who I see in the comment section of the real estate related posts just hating on everything real estate. But keep in mind, they're comparing this year to last year, which was not a typical year given what the pandemic has done with lowering rates. So if we look at the pre-pandemic sales levels, we're actually looking pretty similar to sales in 2019. So what I think is actually more telling is that the sales numbers from March to April of this year are actually down 27%. So if you're thinking of selling your home this year, it's important to know these numbers and to understand the trends of demand and really understand buyers' mentality so that you can properly and strategically position your home for sale and have success. Now, the fundamentals of what drives house prices are still strong. We're just going through a fluctuation as the last 24 months were so accelerated. And this fluctuation is normal. It is welcomed. We needed it to happen because what was going on was not sustainable. These 20 to 30% year over year increases and 10% month over month increases just is not normal. But before I dive in to painting the picture of what's really happening, let's just start with this. So let's just rewind things a little bit here. All right, so bam, it is the pandemic. Everyone is losing their shit, including the banks, so they cut rates to almost nothing. Now we know and we've seen what low borrowing costs did to the real estate market. It really created this buying frenzy. Everybody and their mother got excited and started shopping with all this cash, but there was not much really available for sale. During the pandemic, we've seen an average of 4 to 6 buyers for one property, and sometimes even more. There was just so much demand, more so than we ever seen in the last 40 years of real estate. And I really say 40 years because that's all I have the data for. But if you were out there in the trenches and trying to buy a home, you knew just how competitive it was. The second a home was listed on the MLS, it sold hours later in many instances. There was barely any homes for sale relative to how many people eagerly wanted to buy a home. So it created this perfect storm for sellers, and prices shot up to the moon so fast, which further fueled this fear of missing out mentality. It was a vicious emotional cycle, really. But okay, let's stop there. Unless you've been living under a rock, I think you get the picture. But if the pandemic didn't happen and rates didn't go on sale and the perfect storm didn't brew or explode in our faces, where would we actually be? So over the last 20 years, the market has appreciated 10%. Now the media is gonna do what it does and paint a very wide macro picture, but I wanna help you understand is what is going on in Durham, York, and Toronto, and what this actually means to you. So I just want to preface this with your specific real estate situation may vary, as right now we are experiencing many different things varying from city to city, neighborhood to neighborhood, and even housing type to housing type. So anything that is HGTV quality will still do well in this market. It's the homes that are and that are not really popping out that are getting lost amongst the competition, which are gonna have trouble. Not every home that hits the market is selling due to maybe how it's presented, pricing strategy, or maybe sellers' expectations and even their needs. But right now, 70 to 75% of the homes for sale are still selling, and we're still considered to be in a seller's market with under 2 months of inventory. Prior to, in the peak of the months, about 85 to 90% of the homes that are hitting the market were selling. So here is a graph that takes the actual market values, and I'm taking into consideration all housing types and then compounding the average 10% appreciation we've seen over the last 20 years. So on the left side, you will see what April did from 2018 to now, and on the right side, you're gonna see what the market should have been at given the last 20-year trend line. Now, keep in mind, real estate isn't always so predictable and doesn't go in a linear line. This is just a 20-year average using the average as a metric. The York region has seen a 55% increase over the last 5 years, which is just after the correction in 2017, where prices fell 26% and took about 3 years to recover. York region is about 3% behind schedule, which is pretty much indicative that it's really back in line with where it should be. Durham region, we've seen the largest pricing increase over the last 5 years, with homes being 80% more expensive and are still 23% ahead of schedule. So areas that have the most significant increases are typically the ones that see the greatest pullback. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks and months in Durham region. In Toronto, we've seen a 51% increase. Now keep in mind that this is taking into consideration freehold properties and condos, and Toronto is really in line with where it should be at 3% ahead of schedule. So home prices have risen on average 15% in the GTA when compared to last April, but when we compare it to March, we're actually down 7%. Now this graph here is interesting because you can see the ebb and the flow of the market and how factors like rise in interest rates not only impact people's purchasing power, but I also feel that the sentiment surrounding a change really impacts buyers' decision making. Rates are going up and there's no doubt that your monthly payment will be more expensive, but when breaking it down on a monthly mortgage, the general rule of thumb is that for every 0.5% rate increase, monthly mortgage payments increase about $25 per 100 grand of debt based on a 25-year amortization. Now, depending on your situation, this can mean a difference of $400 to $500 or more a month, which can be a lot of money. Now, I think that the change to rates has caused people to put a pause on their home search as they really sort out the situation and reevaluate the type of home that they can afford. So after speaking to many people and even colleagues, I'm really noticing that people are in a wait and see phase. So every time there's any sort of change when it comes to either policy or finances, it's human nature to fall into this let's wait and see what happens category, but people still need and want houses. So once the market kind of absorbs this new norm, demand, I suspect, will come back. Now in York, February was the peak with homes selling for 1.58 million, and in Durham, February was also the peak with the average home of selling for 1.22 million. Now, York region has seen a 10% decrease in price since the peak and 6% decrease from March to April. Durham region is actually down 12% since February peak numbers and 6% month over month. Now, Toronto has been a steady increase as April is actually the highest month so far for home values, with the average price of a home selling for $1.24 million. After reviewing the data, it seems to me like the spring market came early, and instead of happening in the typical April months, it really ramped up in January and we felt it in February. Now, keep in mind that the markets will always go up and down, but history tends to repeat itself. And if you have a long-term outlook and a plan to be in your home for about 3 to 5 years, remember time is your friend and you're gonna be okay. Now you're probably wondering, why is this important to me? Well, if you're a buyer right now, there's more opportunity for buyers when it comes to competition. Meaning in January and February, it wasn't unrealistic to expect and see 10 plus offers on a property. Now you may be competing with 1 or 2 offers. Sometimes you may just be the only offer on the table. So that in itself will allow you to actually negotiate prices and even maybe have some conditions like financing or home inspection, and you can finally breathe when making a home purchase. Secondly, depending on where and what you're looking for to buy, you're likely saving between 100 to 150 grand now versus the beginning of the year. So if you're planning on making a move, even if it's not in the near future, I would always recommend to speak with a mortgage broker and to really develop a plan if home ownership is something that you're looking to achieve. If you're a seller, you're likely feeling like the wind has been taken out of your sails. However, it is still a seller's market when measuring the absorption rates, and 70 to 75% of homes that are hitting the market are still selling. We're still seeing between 1 to 2 months of inventory in Durham, York, and Toronto, and until we see these numbers creep up to 4 and above, homes will still be selling for relatively strong prices just based on the fundamentals of supply and demand, and we're not going to be seeing these huge declines that some people people are waiting for and trying to time. What we will see, and really what we're already seeing, is that the slowdown of how fast prices are increasing. So prices will stabilize and sellers will change their listing strategy from offer dates and bidding wars to pricing their home at what they're hoping or expecting to get. Now, buyers will be able to make more sound and thought out decisions instead of being forced to act spot on. So month over month, we are starting to see a decline. Yes, we are starting to see a decline from the peak. Yes, but year over year, we are up 15% in terms of price. And I believe that moving forward with interest rate hikes and all that's going on in the world, we're going to see home prices stabilize and not really accelerate as fast as they were. And in some areas, even correct, but not crash just based on what we're seeing today. Unfortunately, if you're relying on February pricing, you may be waiting a little bit before it goes back up to that. It's almost like, well, let's pretend that February didn't happen. It was really an outlier of a month. Now, if you bought something in the peak of the market and you're looking at what your neighbor's house just sold for and freaking out, remember this: time is your friend in real estate. So as long as you're able to make those payments on the house, you're gonna be okay. Now, there is one wild card I just want to mention here that could completely throw the market for a loop, and that is the government. They recently came out with a federal budget and they have mentioned a lot of things like putting an end to blind bidding. They mentioned that they have a plan to increase the amount of homes for sale and to make housing more affordable. But again, buyers, you have an advantage right now than you did at the beginning of the year, and sellers, unless you're exiting the market completely, it's likely that you have to sell and then buy, so it's very much relative. So that is it. If you have any questions, concerns, wondering how this impacts you personally, give me a shout, book a call below. I would love to chat. And if you found an ounce of value from this video, please hit the subscribe and like button. It really helps this little channel grow and shows my kids that their mom is cool. So ciao for now, and I'll catch you on the next one.